Let's jump to page 47 in this Trig PACE 1136. I looked over the intervening pages that talked about arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent, and that basically just means the angle whose sine, cosine, or tangent is a given number. And those problems really do not look very hard. I don't think you should have much trouble with that. And you get to use your calculator. You got to be careful whether you're in the degree mode or the radian mode, so watch that. That'll affect your answer. But we're going to look here now at how to solve a triangle. Notice that this is a right triangle, and that is important. All of these features for sine, cosine, and tangent in solving triangles have to be right triangles. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to put this on. Yep, here we go. If I want to solve for this angle here, we'll call this angle theta, and this is problem number 3 on page 47. I have two sides. I have this side here, which is 5, and this side, which is 2. And then this is the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So here's the right angle, so this has to be the hypotenuse. Do you remember how to tell which side is opposite and which side is adjacent? Let's do a quick review here. If you're standing in a room that was shaped like this, okay, kind of weird, right? Weird shaped triangular room. But if you're standing here, you can reach out and touch this wall with one hand, let's say your left hand, and that would be the hypotenuse. The other wall that's attached to your corner is adjacent, okay, attached, adjacent. Then the wall that is across from you that you can't touch would be the opposite side, okay? So we're relative to this angle. So let's start with this angle first. Now, since I don't know the hypotenuse, I cannot use the sine because I have to have hypotenuse, and I can't use the cosine because that also has to have the hypotenuse. But if you'll notice, tangent has the opposite over the adjacent, and I have both of those. So this is going to be the opposite side, and this is the adjacent side. And so now we say the tangent of theta is 5 over 2. Okay? So on your calculator now, you're going to do, some calculators have shift, and I don't have my TI 83 or 84 here in front of me. I should have done that. I have my phone calculator, but I hit shift on the tangent, and then that gives me the second function tangent. And then I can, so I think it looks like this, tangent -1, and then I plug in 5 over 2, and then you should get 68 point something degrees. But I think the answer key says to express angles to the nearest degree. Okay, so we did this one together. Make sure you got the same answer on your calculator. Don't just copy this down. Make sure you understand how to do these steps and that you're getting the 68. Now, do you remember what all 3 angles in a triangle have to add up to? Right, 180 degrees. So right off the bat, 180 degrees, if I subtract out this 90 degrees down here, then that means this angle has to be 90 minus 68. Okay, so you can kind of do that in your head, right? Hopefully. But if we know this angle, then the other angle in the other corner added to that has to add up to 90 degrees, because all 3 angles will have to add up to 180 degrees. All right, so we have finished the two angles. Now let's talk about how do we find the hypotenuse. Okay, and you have to think back to when we learned about Pythagorean's theorem, and that is that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So 2 squared and 5 squared, we'll add those two together, and that gives us 29, but that's h squared. And so then to find h, we do the square root of both sides, and that gives us the square root of 29. Now I will give you a hint here. I looked in the score key. They do not use the calculator to try to get a decimal answer for the square root of 29. So they want you to just leave the answer as the square root of 29. Okay? So we have basically done problem number 3 together, but that's how you do all of the problems on page 47. Some of them, like number 4, you do have the hypotenuse, but you don't have one of the sides. Okay? So you can use Pythagorean's theorem to find the other side, but then you have to use the 4 and the 10 to figure out what the angle is. And you could actually solve for either angle. It just depends on which angle you want to stand in, so to speak, and figure out whether the 4 is going to be adjacent or whether it's going to be opposite. But regardless, the 10 has to be the hypotenuse, okay? And then you have more problems like that on page 48. Same kind of a thing. They just give us some interesting pictures, but you're still solving for the angles by using 2 sides. All right, I think that takes us to the end of this PACE, and you're going to do a quick review and then a checkup, and then you're ready to do the self-test and the PACE test. And we'll see you again in PACE 1137.